I did mine on, I did it.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and call this regular City Commission meeting of November 22nd to order. I'd like to start with an approval of the agenda. I have no amendments or changes to the agenda as it was published. Do I have a motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Martin.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments or questions on the motion floor from the dais? Any comments or questions on the motion floor from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. I'd like to invite Pastor Armin Lowry from Mount Zura Full Gospel Baptist Church. I think there's a fresh wind in there.
Fresh wind.
Fresh wind, Mount Zura Full Gospel Baptist Church, to give tonight's invocation. If you would, please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance that will follow. Pastor Lowry, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pastor, and thank you also, Pastor, for your leadership this past weekend on Sunday. We had a bunch of our churches in the Newberry Ministerial Association. They got together and they put on a Thanksgiving feast. I want to say we gave out between 600 and 700 Thanksgiving meals at Lois Fort Park. It was a great turnout, and Pastor Lowry was an integral part of making that happen. So we appreciate him. That moves us to presentations. First up is Mr. Murphy, the Executive Director of Children's Trust of Alachua County. We're so excited to have you out here and hear about all the great things that are happening and can happen with the Children's Trust.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Marlowe, and members of the commission, and thank you for allowing the Children's Trust to come out tonight. It's been actually 3 years since the trust was passed by the voters, and we wanted to make sure, shortly after it was hired, the world went off a cliff and everyone has been in their houses, but now that we're able to get out and about, we wanted to make sure that we got around to every part of the county and let all of you know how your tax dollars were being invested for children. So we did pass actually just over 3 years ago now. When the voters passed the trust, it made $8 million available every year directly for children's services. And we're governed by a board. We have 10 members on the board that make the decisions and levy the tax. 5 of them, the ones highlighted in red, are people that you might know that are appointed by the governor. Our chair, Lee Pinkeson, and Maggie Labarda, retired CEO of Meridian. And then in the middle row, Dr. Karen Cole-Smith from Santa Fe College, Dr. Nancy Hart, Professor Emeritus from the University of Florida College Pediatrics, and then in the bottom there, Dr. Patricia Snyder, who is the endowed chair at the Anita Zucker Center for Early Childhood Studies. And then the other 5 board members are on the board by statute. So we have a county commissioner, Commissioner Cornell. The school superintendent, Dr. Carly Simon, is required to be on the board. We're required to have a school board member who is Ms. Tina Certain, a member from DCF, Cheryl Twombly, and then a juvenile justice judge, Judge Suzanne Wilson-Bullard. So that's the board. They make the decisions. We also have a full staff now after almost 2 years. There's 10 of us on the team that make sure that the tax dollars are well spent on behalf of the board and the taxpayers. We have 4 key goals. The board has decided on 4 key goals for children. Basically, it's to keep it simple, it's to keep them healthy, educated, supported, and safe. And an easy way to remember that, this will date me, but I don't know if you remember having a Hess truck growing up, but the letters HESS, healthy, educated, supported, and safe. And so what do we invest in and where do we fit in the children's services system? I'm not going to read this whole complicated picture, but if you think of what it takes for a child to thrive, they of course need things that help them learn and then things that help them develop, so that will be in the purple boxes. And then there's a number of different systems that they need to take part of that need to be available and affordable and inclusive. And then when you combine all of that with government, religious organizations, schools, health and transportation, and all the other systems, you put that together, and that's what it takes to make a child thrive. Now, right now in our community, there's a tremendous amount of funding coming in from the federal government. There's $33 million going to the city of Gainesville and another $52.8 million going to our county commission. I know that all of the municipalities are getting funding as well from the federal government. We have an infusion of about $2.5 billion for early childhood coming through the state, through the Department of Education, down through our various early learning coalitions. The school district has close to $90 million in federal funding, COVID relief, in funds called ESSER. And so we try to figure out where we fit, because the Children's Trust is a small portion of that. We're about $8 million a year, so we don't want to double spend or duplicate. But we do want to interact in each of these places where we can get the biggest bang for the taxpayers' dollars. So we spend a lot of time thinking about how our funds can best be used. So with our 4 goals, I'm not going to read all these strategies. I believe you have a copy of the presentation. But for each of our 4 goals, we have 3 or 4 different strategies for each goal that we've decided to take a look at what might work. And when you look at the budget page, about 40% on the left-hand side, about 40% goes to access high-quality childcare, after-school programs, and summer programs, with the second largest category being for professional development and capacity building for the adults that work with children. I have 5 children myself, from 17 to 7, working. I'm not, anyways, kids are tough, and so a lot of the adults that work with kids don't, they don't get paid very well, and yet they're asked to do a difficult job. So what we found is that it takes some investment to get their skills up to speed to provide the quality of services that we'd like to provide. And then with the other strategies, they make up the rest. And this year we expect to grant out a little bit over north of $5 million. So we also get involved in policy. Children's Services Councils are effective policy advocates, because when we go to talk to legislators, since we already have a funding source and we don't ask the state for funding, we're an impartial arbiter, so to speak. So we were involved last year in helping promote Senator Perry's expungement bill. Ultimately, it was vetoed. He's going to give that another run. This year, aside from that, we are looking at some legislation to make kids safer when they're in the custody of adults in both summer camps and after-school programs and any program that deals with youth. And there's also some opportunities for Kid Care expansion, which, as you know, is the health insurance program that's kind of in between private insurance and Medicaid for those families in the gap. So those are the few of the areas where we work on the policy level up in Tallahassee. A few programs I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that impact Newberry. One would be, we have a universal nurse home visiting program that was actually started by the county commission that we've taken over and sustained since the trust has been constituted. Every mother in the county that gives birth is able to get a visit from a registered nurse right to their home to make sure they get started on the right foot. This year, we plan on visiting about 720 new children and their families in their home. It's a voluntary program. And last year, we found an obvious gap coming out of the pandemic was activities for children to do in the summertime. Summer's important not only because of the summer skill loss. If kids aren't engaged, they tend to regress, but also provides a way for parents to work and leave their kids in safe places and earn a living for their families. So last year, we spent about $700,000 in summer programs for 22 agencies to serve almost 1,200 children. When you look at where they came from, of course, a lot of them came from the core city, but as you go down, 32 are from Newberry. That doesn't look like very many, but we didn't actually have a site that was funded in Newberry. So when we put out the RFP, we didn't have any that were bid from here that were awarded, but we had 2 on High Springs. So as we look to release that again in January, we hope that, if there's a need out here, that we would find someone to bid and apply for those funds, because kids from Newberry did find other places to go.
Stop here.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
What about the daycares that are already here? Can they piggyback off this program?
Yes, so last year, there are child care centers here that do serve school-aged children and can in the summer. They were eligible to bid. For whatever reason, they just didn't, but they can try again because we're going to do it again. But it was a hit. Parents loved it. Kids loved it. We had a lot of great activities, from arts to sports to theater, a lot of different camps and activities for kids to do. The program was a hit. And going forward, we've expanded, so we have 8 after-school sites that we funded for this fall, but that'll be put out for a competitive solicitation again, probably more in the spring, looking towards next year. And you can find all our programs that we're funding on our website, how much they're getting funded. We have all of our contracts on our website, so it's transparent. And we also celebrated our kids this year at the Cade Museum, celebrating Lights On After School with just some great activities. So going forward, we have a lot that we plan on doing. Just if I won't go over all of those. Again, we're going to support reading. We have some funding from the Pritzker Children's Initiative to support some of the work we're doing. I will say that we're taking a little bit different approach in the area of childcare. What we have found is that most of the child care businesses here that people depend on to get back to work after the pandemic are private businesses, for-profit private businesses, oftentimes run by a lot of times women who started out providing child care in their home, and then they did it for their nephews and neighbors, and before you know it, they have a license and they're in business without any necessarily formal training, really managing a complex array of funding. And it's a very complicated business, and it's hard to break even and stay afloat. So we've partnered up with the Chamber and an organization called the Business Leadership Institute for Early Learning to bring some formal business training for child care center business owners in the areas where we need them the most. And we partner with SCORE or the SBA to review their business plans, because that's the main deliverable. And the idea is that not only will they be able to sustain their business, but hopefully pay higher wages and retain their employees, because like everybody else, they're struggling to find employees to come to work. So we're excited for that. We think that's more on the supply side of the problem, which has been really neglected in a lot of the conversations. And this is the last thing. We have a facility. We're located right in the center of the county on 802 Northwest. Anyways, you can read it. I'm having trouble speaking. So when I get to that, I realize I've said enough, and if there's any other questions, I should probably take them once my mouth stops working. But I do appreciate the opportunity to come out and talk to you all.
And Ms. Murphy, we were awarded a program out here. It just didn't happen on our end. Is that right?
That's right. I'm sorry. Yes, the city did partner with somebody. The city, I think it was the Recreation Department, and for whatever reason, after they were awarded, they weren't able to execute the program, and that happens, so they're welcome to try again. So we did have someone bid out here. It just never got off the ground.
Okay. Any questions? Commissioner Farnsworth.
Just curious, how much do the board members get paid?
Nothing.
You know,
Yeah, they're prohibited from by statute from getting paid.
And who decides who's going to be on the board? Who makes that decision?
We have 5 that are on there by statute, and then 5 that are appointed by the governor.
Okay.
Other questions? Commissioner Bard.
I know it was started by a vote. How long does that last?
The authorization is for 12 years, so this will go for reauthorization in 2030.
Okay. And you said that the budget was about 8 million and you had used 5 last year?
Well, what I showed you, that's the budget for this year to grant out, 5 million this year for programs, and of course, we use funding for other things, but we do have the first 2 years, we do have a fund balance, which we'll have to spend that down by 2030, so that's all part of the budgeting process.
Okay. What are the administrative side expenses? What part of your budget they make up?
We have an administrative, we're about 78% program expenses and 22% administrative right now, which is on the high side if you were looking at a nonprofit, and a lot of that is some startup costs, so we expect that to go down as we scale up some programs.
Gotcha. And how can citizens get involved with this?
There's several ways. So one is we have public meetings just like all of you. You can watch them on YouTube. You can show up. They're all on our website. You could apply to be on the board. Every year there's 1 or 2 board seats open because they're on a rotating schedule. They're on a rotating, they rotate on who's vacant every year. So there's 1 actually open right now. We will, as we move past January 1, we've had various citizen focus groups, and we'll probably come up with some citizen advisory boards. And if you have a certain subject matter expertise, we're always looking for subject matter experts to review proposals as well when we have solicitations. So there's a number of ways where we could use some help from citizens.
Further questions?
I'll just say that I don't see much information here, but the website or just the Children's Trust
Yes.
for getting in contact with yourself or the members?
Yes, so on our website, Children's Trust of Alachua County.us.
.uf?
US.
US.
Yeah. All of my information's on there, all of the board member information's on there, all of our meetings are on there, all the videos of the meetings, all our minutes, all our contracts, everything.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Murphy, what if I'm a small nonprofit out here and I just need $5,000 to run my mentoring program? What's my likelihood of getting success on that? Do you even run grants that small, or are there minimum amounts?
Well, I wanted to plug something else we funded. We did fund the Concerned Citizens of Newberry backpack giveaway. We gave them, I think it was $2,500 if I'm not mistaken. So the size, answer is it depends. We are not a philanthropy, we are a government organization. So you have to have some capacity to receive the funds, report on the funds, report data to us on the participants. I have a full-time evaluator. That's all this person does is evaluate programs. We do recognize that there's a lot of, some people would like us to be an ATM. That's not really how we're functioning. For smaller programs, for people that have good ideas, because there's a lot of good ideas, we have partnered with the University of Florida, the Community Foundation, and the City of Gainesville, I believe, in a fund called Reimagining Gainesville, where you can submit ideas and they'll work with you, and if that idea develops, then they will issue some small grants. So we have issued small grants, but we do have a lot of accountability in place to make sure that the organizations that receive our funding can manage it well on behalf of the taxpayers.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate you coming out for the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. Drive safe back to Gainesville. All right, next up is the Newberry Urban Service Area boundary. And Mr. New, I'm gonna open the floor if you'll give us an introduction here. But even before I ask you to introduce, I want to just make a comment because I think it's important to do so. Sometimes we need to have these kinds of conversations up here. We need to have public conversations, and these kinds of conversations make certain people nervous. But it's truly intended in terms of smart growth. I don't know how you can grow smartly without having an open conversation where you say, this is what our urban services area is, this is why our urban service area is this shape, this is what we want, this is our goals, and this is the shape that we think will get to our goals. But, you know, I think if the city of Gainesville decided tomorrow that they wanted to be pro-growth, they wanted to be development friendly, it would take 3 to 5 years for them to trickle that message out. It has taken a long time to build that message in Newberry that we want to work with people, we want to partner with people. And I don't want having a conversation like this to change that message. This is a message, this is a conversation about how do we grow as a community while maintaining our small town feel? How do we stay together? But how do we also economically develop, provide services and jobs for our young people? How do we keep those young people here? So I just want, I've received a lot of phone calls. People see this on the agenda and they get nervous. What's going on? What's happening? This truly is a conversation. We just finished a visioning session. This was always going to be a conversation as part of that visioning session. Now it's time to implement what we heard from our residents. And so having this preliminary conversation is part of that long goal of making sure we are providing the type of community that our residents want to live in. So with that, Mike, would you please introduce the urban services, and then we'll get Brian up to give us a presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I guess, recently someone asked me, said, Mike, show me the smart growth. And my response to them was immediate. It was, you're looking at it. It doesn't, cities our size don't grow the way we do and don't have as much put together. And I'll start out by saying that all predated Mike New being here. It's not something that I created. The city commission and previous staff put some really good things in place. Putting an urban services area in place was one of the smartest things that we do. If you look at Development 101 textbooks about smart development, they tell you they want to see compact development that starts in the center and grows outward. And while we are massive in terms of square feet, an area, 58 square miles, people want to be part of our community and they want to have a say. But they don't join Newberry to develop, because most of what's joining Newberry now is far outside of our urban services area. And they want to stay ag. They just want this commission in this community to provide their services and not another one. So I think we're unique. Usually whenever property develops into a city, it's for the purpose of urbanization. And most cities our size, most cities don't have these large agriculture areas that we have, and we love agriculture and intend to keep it that way. So I think it's almost paradoxical that a municipality has these large agricultural areas. We protect those large agricultural areas with this urban services boundary, which is simply an area within our city, a district. In our case, it's going to look very round right now, but in the past it's looked different. It could take on any shape, where the commission is saying very clearly, we want our utility assets and our dense development to occur in this area. Whatever shape they choose, that's where we want density to be, where we want housing density, commercial density. We're not going to extend utilities outside of that to serve development. So if you're a large development that needs fire protection, needs potable water, potable wastewater, you're going to need to find property inside the urban services area. So it's one of the most important things that our commission decides upon in terms of setting its vision and setting guidelines for how it would like to see development. And I think it's a perfectly appropriate time to speak on it. Brian and our planning staff certainly have expertise here that I don't. I think the plan for tonight's presentation, though, is we're going to present information. It's pretty weighty and stuff that we haven't talked about in a little bit of while. We expect questions perhaps, but we certainly aren't seeking direction. I don't think we intend to come back and seek direction in the December meeting. Maybe in January. We'll bring it back up at the first meeting in January, and the commission may give us direction then, or they may ask more questions. But we're not trying to rush through something here. We understand that this is a big undertaking, a big consideration. It's not, we can change the urban services area, but you don't just do it willy-nilly. It takes some effort from the commission to get it changed, and so we kind of want to discuss it again. It's been 5 years since we've had a conversation about the urban services area. We have some new elected officials, and even those that have sat here, we hadn't had the discussion in 5 years. I think it's a great opportunity to talk about how it works, what it means to our community, and so Brian is going to get up and share a presentation with the commission, and hopefully we'll have great questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Brian, you're going to be a busy man tonight, so.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, our recommendation, as the manager said, is receive the presentation and discuss the urban service area boundary at your discretion. The USAs, the urban service areas, were established by the legislature for local communities to use as a growth management tool. The boundary is determined solely by the local governing body. You have full discretion. The state generally does not really get involved in the boundary that you set. It's all up to the governing body. Like I said, it's used as a tool to basically direct growth in the area where the urban services are expected to be provided or planned for, and to limit growth where they're not, or where the local governing body doesn't necessarily believe growth is appropriate. And it is an optional element of a comprehensive plan. But as an element of the comprehensive plan, it's pretty powerful because if you want to extend beyond that, you do have to go back and do a large-scale amendment, submit it to the state. They go through, the DEO goes through their process and sends it back. So it's a very strong tool that y'all have to decide where you want to direct growth to. So currently, as was mentioned, we have a very circular urban services area right now. You can see kind of the jigsaw puzzle of the boundary of the city of Newberry, but then the circle has got the urban services area boundary, plus a little bit down at the bottom on north of 46th Avenue. Just for reference, this is the old urban services boundary from 2007, and in comparison, you can see where the 2016 and beyond urban services boundary. So the old one took up the majority of the current area of the urban services boundary. So a little bit of a blow up there. It's approximately three mile radius from the centroid in the city of Newberry. It's approximately 28 to 29 square miles, which is right about half of what the city of Newberry municipal boundary encompasses. So you've got about 58 to 59 square miles in the city. You've got 28 to 29 square miles of urban services boundary. And within that, we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 square miles of urbanized area, or of developed area. You can see from the aerial that there is quite a bit of undeveloped area within the urban services area, primarily along the main corridors, as would be expected. You have your primary areas of development.
I'm sorry, can you go back to that one, Brian? One of the questions I have, and like, let me start with two, jog my memory, because in my memory, we had to, in order to get Sandia Park, didn't we have to modify the urban services area at that point?
Mr. Mayor, actually, if you go back, Sandia is in the red, would have been encompassed in the red area. So Sandia itself was already in it.
The economic overlay district that we.
Yes, sir.
Economic overlay district, okay. Go back to the other map. So I like this map, the parcel map. One of the questions I have is, like, take a parcel like this, and the urban service area just sort of cuts right through. So that guy, half of his property is inside, half of it is outside.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and in situations like that, typically if you're going to develop part of the parcel which is inside, then we also apply the urban services to the outside as well.
So does that skip amending our comp plan if part of yours was in?
It doesn't necessarily skip it. Again, the commission has full latitude on the design of the urban services area, and so I don't believe, if you have a single parcel, I don't think you'd be held to a strict interpretation of it where it's bisected by the urban services line. I think similar to, for instance, the historic district, we've got parcels that are divided by the historic district, but if a piece of that parcel is in the district, then any special considerations that apply from being in the district would also apply to the totality of the parcel. I think it's the same kind of concept here, where if part of the parcel is within the urban services boundary, you can consider all of it to be within the urban services boundary, just not anything beyond that.
So if I have 2 acres inside the urban services area, but it's connected to 2,000 acres outside, my 2,000 acres is automatically inside the urban service area?
I think, Mr. Mayor, in that instance, staff would recommend that we adjust the urban services boundary to encompass the additional, to go through the process of consideration, whether the commission wanted to include that much.
Mr. Mayor, I'd also point out that he's talking about on a parcel level, and I don't think there's any whole parcels in
As a
the city.
hypothetical.
Yeah, I understand that, but I
Right.
mean, the largest parcel in Newberry is 40 acres, single parcel,
Oh, no, there's
a couple
there's a
hundred
few hundred
acres.
acres, but no,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So, but nothing
I
in
don't
the,
believe we have anything in the thousands range.
okay. So it wouldn't apply just to ownership, it applies to a whole parcel. Okay. There he is.
I guess the point of my hypothetical question was, how far it's up to the commission to decide, well, I've got a little sliver of the corner of my parcel is in, so I'm going to argue, the developer's going to argue, hey, this little sliver's in, so my whole 40 acres is actually in, or my whole 350 acres is actually in. Is that, and it's maybe a Scott question, is that a legally defensible position to say, well, in terms of precedent, since this little bitty, the corner peak of your property is inside the urban services area, then you have a leg to stand on to argue that your whole 300-acre parcel, 40-acre parcel should be. And if that is the case, then it seems like we should draw the urban service areas around existing parcel lines, not just put a pin in the middle and draw a circle, so that we mitigate
That's certainly,
some of these.
That's certainly one option, Mr. Mayor, and a lot of communities actually practice that, or put that into practice.
Okay,
So,
all right,
That would be good. Mayor Lane Square.
make it our Tetris shaped.
Yeah.
Couldn't we also put some language, Brian, in the document itself that says this is how we're going to interpret it, so that would...
absolutely, the commission could make the determination that they either wanted to include all of the parcel if it's inside, if a piece of it is inside the urban service area, or that it has to be over 50%, or you could set those guidelines yourself, and we could write that into the code. So I showed the aerial here to give you an idea of the areas where you have substantial undeveloped parcels within the urban services boundary. But then if you look at the number of projects, proposed projects that fall within it, we actually currently have active proposed projects basically on all 4 points of intersection with our state roads, north, south, east, and west. And then within the urban services area, some of those seemingly vast areas of undeveloped tracts also are falling under current applications that are before us now. So I wanted to show you what falls within the urban services. Pretty much all of them fall within or substantially within the urban services boundary right now. So if the commission was going to consider making changes, this would probably be something that the commission would want to take a look at as well. The process to amend it is it's amended by ordinance. It's heard first by Planning and Zoning Board, 2 hearings by the City Commission, after the first of which, presumably if the commission had voted to adopt on first reading or approve on first reading, then it's transmitted to Department of Economic Opportunity in Tallahassee for their review. Although again, considering that it's at the sole discretion of the local community, they pretty much just review and make sure that everything's been done process-wise, and then pass it on, and then back from DEO, it'd be approved on second reading by the commission.
What's the DEO turnaround time?
They have up to 45 days, but they've been getting things in within 30 of late. So they're pretty quick on the expedited review process. And that pretty much covers it. Like I said, it's a tool for you to use at your discretion.
Okay, questions? Commissioner Martin?
Brian, let's go back to that one there. What is the prevailing thought with regards to things that are already in the pipeline that are there grandfathering clauses involved there? Because, if we shrunk this down to, within 10 blocks of the light, a lot of people get drawn outside the line, so to speak. But what are their developmental rights with regards to changes midstream, so to speak?
Well,
talk us through that a little.
For folks who can't see the key up there, yellow means they have not, either haven't come before the P&Z or they're not even through the process yet, right?
Correct. Those
The
in
red
yellow
and the
are-
blue are ones that have rights that are there. The yellow are things that we think are coming, we've been notified are coming, but haven't even really started the process.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, everything in yellow is in the initial applications phases and is yet to come before you. And then the reds are in active development where most of the time dirt's being turned or they're in design phase. And then the blue are those that have entitlements. They've been approved by the commission, but they're not actively under development right now. So.
Mr. Manager?
Brian, just going back to the original overlay district from 2007, if I recall correctly, we had that when the State Road 26 corridor study was undertaken by CHW with a bunch of private investment dollars. And they were really focused on that corridor east of town. And during those conversations, that's when this concept came forward. And the commission directed us to move towards this. So, and my point is that the conversation that was occurring at the time we changed the district was focused on some other things and probably not as focused on the urban service area boundary as this particular conversation is. There were a lot of other things going on in that conversation. That occurred 5 years ago, correct?
The current boundary that was established in 2016 was part of an overall comprehensive plan amendment. It wasn't just specifically the urban services area. It was a broader amendment package.
Brian, speak to us a little bit, if you would, because we've had commissioners say, look, we've got 6 to 7% growth rates. We've got, and tonight is a good example, we got quasi-judicials that are making our agendas 4 pages long. And when we go into quasi-judicial, we have staff saying to us, well, it's inside the urban service planning. They're either have water and sewer or they're willing to get water and sewer. And the applicant presents, and then no one else says anything else. Okay, so we're in quasi-judicial. All the experts in the room say it fits our plan. How would changing the urban services line change staff's response to someone who wants to develop outside of the urban service line, even if it was right across the adjoining parcel?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Did we answer my question? Because I don't think...
I'm not sure we got to your questions, or if it did, I'd
Restate your
distracted
question.
if you could.
I thought we did.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. For folks who already have projects in the works
That's
or in the pipeline, how does changing it affect them?
Mr. Mayor, if the commission directed staff to come up with a plan to amend it, to take out some of the undeveloped areas, staff's recommendation would be not to set up a situation where you had that conflict, but to do a very strategic cutting of the area, the excess area that the commission wanted out of it, and leaving those that are already under application in. They would, if they're under active application, they would be considered under the current urban services boundary.
Brian, could I expand on that? If it's a petition for rezoning where they don't have any vesting, I would think it's more fair game to move it. If they have zoning rights today,
Yes.
I think that we would advise the commission not to cut them out of the urban services area, because I think that we are then taking away entitlements. If they are in process but have never been granted any zoning rights and they have no vesting, then I think it's up to the commission's consideration on how they want to treat the fact that the process, that they've been in the application pipeline for a period of time.
So that, in my mind, registers a box of just kind of having a grandfathering clause, for lack of a better description, but,
If they have zoning,
make
they
sure
should be
that-
grandfathered, as our recommendation.
okay. So it sounds like the zoning is the trigger right now.
Do you agree
Existing
with that, Scott?
entitlements.
Gotcha.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
But, and the reason I thought we had answered your question is, that would mean everything in yellow, fair game, everything in red and blue, vested is there,
Agree.
right? They've got rights. Everything in yellow is, you guys could cut out around that, right? And that would be fair as well, because those are either things that we've said, people have come and said, hey, I'm going to come forth with this idea, but they don't have any zoning. But zoning also is tied to the urban services area, right? If you want to come and change your zoning outside of the urban services area, we only have one package for that, right? It's the commercial neighborhood.
Yes.
That's your only option. So so everything comes back to the USA. What is your urban services area? Because then everything else is tied from that. So before we move on, does that answer your question? I want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now can you speak to let's say two of those yellow parcels on the east, they come before us, but the urban services area is further to the west now. How does that change staff's recommendation because eventually those applicants would have the right to get before this board, and just say, hey, I know we're not inside the urban services area, but we want to be, right? So they're going to get in front of this board eventually, but does staff recommend yes, or does staff by default have to say no, since they're outside the urban services area? We're recommending no, unless the commission wants to go back through this roughly 6-month process of changing the urban service area.
Mr. Mayor, in that instance, before it got to the commission, the staff would have worked with the applicant to include in their application package an application to amend the urban services boundary, because we would have to go ahead and amend it to extend it outward to encompass their project before their project really could be
come
considered for approval.
Commissioner Clark.
Brian, we seem to get caught up in, talked about something 3-4 months ago. We were going to come back before the board with a recommendation, what we were going to do with 26 as far as our commercial property.
Yes.
Down the line with a drone map, and here we are. But I haven't seen it. It hasn't come to fruition.
No, Mr. Mayor, that, I think as we've discussed before, we're working with a consultant right now on that. They're actually going to be coming before you with their recommendations. We're starting with the draft, then they're going to have a workshop or two to get your input, go back, fine-tune the recommendations, and then come back for final approval.
So then the second part of that answers that question, would be, do we take these lines, and do we push this off till we can make a better decision? Or are we trying to?
I think in my mind, and staff's free to disagree with me, I think the urban services area is the foundation. You decide that first. Then when you look at where you want to grow, then you say, okay, do we want to have an overlay district that controls different sections of the town or corridors and forces those areas to build and develop to a higher standard? And I'll tell you, while you're on this map, I'm going to talk loud so the people at home can try to hear me. At some point in time, I've heard everyone on this dais just about say, I don't want to approve any more residential on the north side of 26 because of the proximity of the mines, right? And yet, our urban service area encompasses all of the mines. So I think that we are giving staff kind of a mixed signal, and we're giving developers in our community a mixed signal, because we have a whole quadrant of that pie shape that we have in conversation said we can't approve anymore because of the proximity of the mines, and yet it's inside the urban services area. So I think it's beholden on us to clearly communicate to staff and say, if we're not going to approve anything there until the mines are done and they're moving north, that we should amend our urban services area, just go ahead and cut it out. Now, our staff doesn't have to go back and fight with developers about what it should or shouldn't be, because we have taken and said, no, this is where we want to grow. So I would say urban services area first, overlay district second, right? Because if we change the urban services area, then the overlay district may change as well, because we're going to be looking at where do we want that development to occur and what kind of development do we want it to occur. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Clark? Okay, you yield the floor. I'm going to go to manager, city manager. City manager?
Mr. Mayor, I would just point out to your example, the commission has clearly communicated to staff on a number of occasions, no residential north of 26. So the overlay district allows for intense development that would be non-residential, the way I understand it. So right now, that if a development came in that was purely industrial or commercial on the north side of 26, that the commission feels like they're not going to get mining complaints, and the applicant says, I want to change the land use to commercial or industrial, and I want to change the zoning to commercial industrial, that the commission would support. All the feedback that I've received so far was that if we were to cut that section out, we would say, nope, that land on the north side of 26 is going to be ag forever. No utility, or ag until the commission changes the line. So it's just a subtle nuance that the commission has been communicating no residential. And that's what we've been reporting. We have an application pending for residential. They want to see, did you really mean it? But
Hence the double messaging.
Hence the double messaging. But we communicated to that applicant that these are the issues, and they are prepared to address that with the commission. They're also prepared for the commission to say, we said no residential development north of 26 in this area, and we mean it, and we're going to deny a petition for rezoning to residential when it ever gets here.
But Mike, what is the grounds that staff would use other than the informal conversations or the public conversations that the commission said, hey, we're worried about the mines, we don't want to approve residential? Because we get into this sort of gray area in a quasi-judicial where we're supposed to just listen to experts, and staff saying, well, you know, it fits, it's in the urban services area, we know you don't want to, so we're saying no based on the fact that you've said you don't want to. What are the legal grounds to tell somebody no if they have water and sewer, it's inside the USA, but we just don't feel like residential is the right thing to
Mr.
put
Mayor,
next to?
I think that staff's report, when they present that to the commission, should include that we've had a number of complaints from residential development in that area. The commission's asked us to look specifically at that on 2 different occasions. Our code enforcement officer wrote up a really long report about that. I think he previously did the same report when he worked for Alachua County, the same thing. And that staff report gets introduced into evidence, and so staff is introducing evidence to the commission that we've had a number of documented complaints related to mining activities. I believe that would be grounds for the commission to say we're not going to rezone based on that evidence introduced. I would also say that in the quasi-judicial world, the commission has more latitude with land use changes and zoning changes than they do with site plan approval. If you have site plan approval for residential development and you bring a set of plans forward to the city that complies with our LDRs, there's very little that this commission could do to stop that application successfully. And we report that to you all the time, and I know it's frustrating. So the time to address what the commission really wants to see in these areas with regards to density is at the zoning. And here's an example. We're seeing a lot of small lots where people are asking for 40 and 50-foot lots, and they're getting a density of 4 units per acre on average. So the commission could say, we're willing to rezone for residential, but no more 4 units per acre. We want 2 units per acre. If you're willing to develop it at that, that's what we would allow. Then the commission wouldn't feel compelled to approve a lot size that they're unhappy about. So I haven't done as good a job as articulating to the commission where they have the flexibility, but I also say that we've brought very few rezoning applications to the commission related to residential development in forever. They've all had, all these rezoning, the zoning rights that they've had have existed since 2005 and 6, and this commission's been kind of stuck with them, and we don't like it. So I think as these rezoning applications come forward, if the commission says, I have an appetite for residential, but not like that, that's too dense, then I think the commission could say, I'd be willing to approve 2 units per acre or 3 units per acre, but I'm not willing to approve 4, 6, or 8 units per acre.
Well, it took us a while to get here, so let's make sure everyone has the same feeling. Anybody else have any questions about? I feel like what we need to do is receive this presentation, but we also need to, if we have feedback, we need to give it to staff so that they can go do some research. And I like the idea of coming back first of the year and revisiting this conversation, but I do think that this comes before the overlay district. I think we all sort of understand the overlay district is going to be 26, 27, right? But if there are areas that we do, in my mind, if you're inside the USA, urban services area, then the answer isn't no, you can't develop. The answer is yes, but it has to, we want X, Y, and Z. But the answer is yes, right? It's a default answer of yes because it's inside the urban services area. If you don't want to build to the standard, that's fine, but that's your choice. But the answer is yes. So if there's areas that we do not want to develop, this, I think, is the mechanism as the front line defense against that. Is there anybody not clear on the power that green circle has around? Because there's already a couple of things like the yellow at the top north, pretty good section of that's outside. There's going to claim, well, the majority of it's inside, so I'm going to claim precedent and push the urban services area out. So any feedback, any questions, or is everyone ready? Everyone got it? Everyone good to move on? Because this is where the rubber meets the road when it comes to the size of the green belt that we want around Newberry, the speed with which we want to grow, all of those things.
Well, so if we're gonna come back, how quick are we gonna come back to start drawing this different if we wanna draw it different? Do we have to give a schematic that we want and then everybody agrees on it, or do we just come back as a January?
I'd say let's just come back, let's talk to the manager between now and January.
Sure.
And sleep on it. Maybe we're good with where it is right now. If everyone could take the big map that you have and maybe play around with it.
I like the map Brian's got here with the other one that has no drawings on it, is what I'd like to see for me to do kind of what you're talking about, the check box.
Let staff know what you need to see so you can sit there and.
I personally like this map. I can see it a lot clearer than the circle with all the stuff, and then the map that's a satellite image that you can actually overlay it and then draw the squares.
Right.
Mr. Mayor,
Would be pretty good.
to make this more usable for that purpose, what we're going to do is we're going to remove all of the text and we're going to have an index adjacent to it, and then just you can see the outlines of where the developments are.
Perfect.
And yeah, then you can also see in between as well. And it's not as busy.
We're going to add parcel lines, so to the mayor's point, we're going to minimize splitting property parcels as much as possible.
So, one more question, Brian or Mr. Mayor. We got this line, we redraw this, we do whatever we want to do. We've got our USA boundaries renegotiated, or whatever we want to call it. Out toward the east, there's already development that was never put before this board that's already developed. So if we move this, and then the possibility of anyone having anything outside of this line, what will it, at that point, we're talking somebody with their own land that wants to do something. Now we're holding somebody hostage. And there again, in this seat, I don't feel like holding anybody hostage that owns stuff, but does it become a special exception? Does it, what do we do?
Mr.
Or is it
Al-
a yes and no?
As it is right now, anything outside the urban services area is limited to the one residential unit per 5 acres.
And what about commercial?
Commercial
Commercial
is
neighborhood.
the only commercial category we have that's permissible without water and sewer, city water and sewer is commercial neighborhood. And the limitation, the general limitation on that is each individual structure can't be more than 3,000 square feet. It's intended to make small-scale commercial development possible, but it's meant not, it's not meant for, high-traffic areas, really.
Sure, okay.
I think the only thing you could do on the east, in terms of constricting, you could expand it. The only thing you can do in terms of the east, in terms of constricting, is constricted back to the red that's already been approved, right? So
Yeah,
we've
yeah.
got one here is the second
Right.
reading.
Right.
That's already at the end.
Right.
You can get back to that point, right? But make no mistake, when people say Gainesville's overtaken us, Gainesville's come as far, the county has come as far out this way as they can. So if Newberry and Jonesville blend together at this
It's our
point,
fault.
it's gonna be on us, right here. We will the ones that will have allowed that to happen, all right? Any other questions?
And, Mr. Mayor, from 202 to 170th, which is the Newberry city limits boundary, the eastern boundary, that's still 3 miles. And then it's another 1.5 miles to Gainesville's urban service boundary. So right now, there's 4.5 miles between the end of our utility boundary and the county's utility boundary.
And how can that,
Commissioner Farnsworth?
and how can those boundaries be changed? I remember when Newberry's boundary was always all the way to Parker Road.
Mr. Mayor, I'm talking about urban services boundary. This board changes ours. Right now, it's at 202. The only way that we can extend utilities beyond 202 is for this board to move that boundary. And the county's boundary is somewhere around 154th. It's easy to see because it's where the apartments end. And it becomes 5-acre parcels right there, and it's been there for a long, long time, and the county has been very resistant. I don't think the county is going to move their boundary west. It's whether we move east. But even if we went all the way to 170th, which is our eastern city limit, we're still 1.5 miles from the county's utility system. It's really GRUs, but that's where the county allows it to be. And that's all within that GMA area that the county voters just elected, that even if it annexes into Newberry, the county commission still controls development. So to me, there's 4.5 miles worth of undeveloped land. At least 1.5 miles of it will be protected by Alachua County. If our commission is committed to protecting any portion of the 3 miles on our side with an urban service boundary, there will always be a nice green space between the end of Newberry's urbanized development. It's not the city limits, it's where the urbanized development ends and where Jonesville's urbanized development ends.
I just remember originally, whenever the urban reserve area was started, I think Gene Chalmers was the one that was really pushing it. And I thought that Newberry was given all the way to Parker Road. And then they moved it to Farnsworth Road. And now they moved it over to Oak.
And you're exactly right. That was a different type of urban boundary. So Alachua County, once upon a time when we were under the Urban Services Act, allocated where you could do, each city could have 3 different zones of development. And that was overturned about 6 years ago. Yeah, the Boundary Adjustment Act was overturned about 6 years ago. This is similar, but the county never told Newberry where our urban services boundary could be. Only you could set that. So we, under the Boundary Adjustment Act, it was just different layering. All that has been repealed away. That doesn't govern us any longer. Now we have to deal with this and the county's Growth Management Act. If that stands, it would be a potential challenge for us developing outside of what our current city limits are.
Okay. Any other questions here? Okay. Thank you, Brian. We appreciate it. We'll all have a lot to sleep on and think on and come back to
Good
in
presentation.
January. All right. Good job. All right, ladies and gentlemen, your commission likes to hear from their public, so we set aside time at the very beginning of the meeting. Step up and say anything you'd like to us, make any announcement, whether it's on the agenda or not on the agenda. You have a 2-minute time now. If what you'd like to talk about is a little more controversial, we have 5 minutes at the end of the meeting. Come on down, start a queue. Make sure you have to introduce yourself. Nobody in the room knows who you are, you know.
I'm Lee Pinkerson, and I was late for the meeting because obviously I was going to be there with the Children's Trust. So thank you all for listening to whatever they had, whatever was presented, and hopefully it went well. It really is an opportunity for us to change children's lives, and the additional money that we get. Thanks to the courtesy of the taxpayers, I think we really can make a difference. And I know that being on the board, try to do the fiscally responsible thing as well, and make sure that the money is spent responsibly. So the other reason I wanted to come up here was to say thank y'all very much for your leadership in another part of my life that y'all have done for me, and I appreciate it very much. I know that Ken sent me a text with y'all's letters and the letters that y'all got from the other agencies, and truthfully all I could do was pretty much hand the phone to Tina and said, look at this. I got, it was emotional, and it truly is an honor and very humbling at the same time. You sit up there and you try to do what's right, and for y'all to go out of your way to do something kind for me, I can't tell y'all thank you enough. I appreciate it. So that's all I have to say, and thank y'all. Thank y'all. All right.
Well, sir, we appreciate you, and every time I drive by the Alachua County Equestrian, it's going to take me a while to not say Canterbury. And the Ives Building, I think of you and your legacy, and it's going to be awesome for our community for a long time to come. So, any other public comment? Come on down.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Lisa Tate, citizen and acting executive director at Newberry Main Street. I am happy to announce that our 15th annual Fall Festival went off without a hitch. It was wonderfully attended. I know I saw some of you there, and I apologize for not getting a chance to speak with you. Happy vendors downtown stayed busy almost all day. I know I haven't spoken with Joel directly at his vintage store, but I saw people coming. His door was open, going all day. I did speak to Cecilia in the pharmacy. She had an increased traffic. I saw people coming and going at 1906, and the gallery had a record 50 people walk through the gallery in one day. That was pretty awesome. So it was good. I had several people comment to me that not only were they at the festival, and we anticipated probably 25 to 3,000 attendees, we had about 80 vendors. But there was a lot of, the farmers market stayed open later, and some of those vendors stayed later, and so it was nice to see a lot of the walking up and down the street, which is, what has been our goal as we move forward. So anyway, great report.
Great job. Thank you for all that work. We appreciate you.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Joy Glanzer, Chair of the Newberry Opioid Task Force, and I have more than 2 minutes worth of good news to give you, but I'll talk fast. Since we last met, I wanted to tell you that all of the meetings we had with the smaller municipalities were successful, and come fall of 2022, every school in the municipality, Hawthorne, High Springs, Alachua, Archer, and Newberry will have the Rad Kids program in place. Each municipality gave us $10,000 towards that effort, so I'm very grateful for that, plus Newberry's donation as well. A direct result of the kickoff we had last month, I'm excited to tell you that one of our pastors at our local churches came and asked if they could give their fellowship hall for NA meetings to meet here. There are no NA meetings west of I-75, and so those needs are not served here in Newberry. The NA is similar to AA. It helps addicts to have a place once a week to go to share with their issues. So it'll start December, every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock at the Methodist Church. And since it's anonymous, I can't give you names, but the person who's been chosen to lead this chapter is a graduate and an alumni of Newberry High School. That's not normally something to be proud of, that you're an addict to have this, but it means they're in recovery, and this program is a success. So I'm happy to say that. that. We had a booth at the festival on Saturday, and it was great. We had so many people come by and share their stories, and a pivotal moment for me was when one woman came by. She saw our sign and she broke down. She was speechless. She was so grateful that something was being done and that there was silence to solutions. You know, people were starting to talk about it. So that was really a special moment for me to see that, you know, this is needed, and I thank you for your support. And I was encouraged tonight to hear the Children's Trust report, and hopefully maybe we can partner with them in the future. That'll be something we'll be looking at. So thank you for your time, and there's more good news to come later. Thanks.
Wonderful, wonderful. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment, move to consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as was published? I have a motion from Commissioner Clark, second from Commissioner Farnsworth. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Go get those grants. And that was going to take us into public hearings and ordinances, item 5. Dallas, you're going to take us through our final budget amendment, Resolution 2021-52. And Scott, you want to go ahead and read that into the record for us?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is Resolution Number 2021-52, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, adopting final amendments to the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget, providing for severability, conflicts, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass Resolution Number 2021-52 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Dallas, take it away.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners. As the Commission's aware, at the end of every fiscal year, the Finance Department performs a year-end review of your actual revenues and expenditures compared to your budget, and if necessary, prepares a budget amendment for adoption by the Commission. We have 60 days after the close of the fiscal year to adopt this budget amendment. I'm happy to report to the Commission that the city did come in under budget last year. We received about 99% of our total revenue budget, which is pretty good, and we spent 96% of our expense budget. This is all related to your general fund, not citywide. So we did come in under budget overall in the city. The final budget amendment that is in front of you tonight is to allocate some funds into different departments that maybe came in over budget, and to use funds from other departments that didn't. The largest one that you'll see on the list is for the economic development incentives that the Commission approved that were budgeted in our previous year but weren't budgeted in this year, so we carried those forward, and that's in this budget amendment. I'll be back in the spring with your auditors and the city's financial statements to give you more details about where you ended up financially.
Okay. Questions? Okay, if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2021-52 as read into the record. I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, second from Commissioner Clark. Any questions or comments on the motion on the floor from the dais? Any public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and that's going to take us to our first quasi-judicial tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, once we enter quasi-judicial, this board ceases to be a legislative body, and they begin to be a judicial body, which means that we have to follow a certain set of rules and procedures. In a minute, I'm going to go through that. I want to remind everybody that once we go through these rules of procedures, if no one new enters the room, I'm not going to go through all these rules again. We're just going to stay sworn in. We're going to stay in quasi-judicial, and we're going to move through them. When we sit as quasi-judicial, I'm going to ask the attorney to read the ordinance or the resolution by title or number into the record. And again, I'm going to explain the rules right now. Primarily, it's that the substantial and competent evidence must be met when the board makes a decision. It shall state the following, quote, all public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence, and the giving opinion testimony is limited to experts. Closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. I'm going to ask the clerk if you would please swear everyone in. If you're here to speak to any quasi-judicial on the agenda tonight, if you'd please stand up to be sworn in right now. We'll go ahead and knock that out right away. Brian, go ahead, stand up just in case. There we go.
Please raise your right hand and starting from this side of the room, state your name clearly for the record.
Mike Nick.
Brian Thomas.
Wendy Kincher Maxwell.
Joe Hoffman.
Teresa Hoffman.
Chris Potts. Peter McDaniel.
Do you hereby swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You have a duty sworn.
Thank you all. And let's go ahead and do ex parte for any quasi judicial on the docket tonight. Commissioner Clark, is there anything on the agenda tonight that you need to report to the attorney? Commissioner Farnsworth?
No.
Commissioner Martin?
No, sir.
Commissioner Maison? I'm a non-voting mayor, but I have nothing to report as well. So I'm going to take us through the order of procedure we're going to follow tonight. And that is going to be, we're going to hear from a staff with an overview to begin, and the applicant's going to have the opportunity to make a presentation with no time limit. Then staff's going to have the opportunity to make a report and a recommendation, also with no time limit. I've not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim third-party intervener status for any quasi-judicial on the agenda tonight, so that's going to move us to public comment. Any members of the public who want to comment on the motion that's on the agenda item that's up at that time will have 3 minutes to do so. Then the applicant can cross-examine, staff can cross-examine, then members of the decision-making body through the chair can ask questions of the staff or the applicant. Then we'll hear final arguments from the applicant and staff. City attorney will then advise decision-making body as the applicable law and factual findings must be made to approve or deny the application. We'll do that one time for all quasi-judicials as well. Then we'll enter into deliberations. We'll ask any questions what we have. And after deliberations, a vote will be taken to approve conditions, continue, or deny. And Miss Amy, you will help me watch the door in case anyone sneaks in. And with that, Wendy, take it away. Give us our first overview. And if there is no applicant presentation, move right into recommendation.
Thank you. Wendy Kinzer-Maxwell, Principal Planner for the City of Newberry. A copy of your staff report, recommendation, and the draft ordinance has been entered into the record. So if we go on to the next slide, we get into what we're considering now, and that's a development agreement that's provided for in our Florida statutes as the Florida Development Agreement Act. The purpose of this is to strengthen the public planning process, to be able to provide for sound capital planning and financing, and help assure that we have adequate capital facilities for development. And it'll encourage private participation. It allows for developers to be involved in the process and to have a better way of spending monies that are the cities and the taxpayers, and then also to make sure that the developer is able to contribute as a part of that. 2 public hearings are required. You've had your first public hearing on November 8th. And this tonight is your second public hearing in which you are able to approve the development agreement if you so choose. This is for Phase 1B of the Avalon Woods mixed-use development, and that's on the east side of 2745, and this is just 9.44 acres. And you see that it's just on the south side of Northwest 24th Avenue. And the overview, just to go over what the development agreement is addressing, it's really that one section that you saw on the map, and it further implements the development order and the development agreement that's already been passed and approved for the entire Avalon Woods development. And it also provides, in this case, the phase-specific requirements for infrastructure improvements and the timing of that and who's responsible. And so the actual conditions of that permit, we'll go over those, but I want you to just look at this. This is the private property element, private property rights element, the part of your comprehensive plan. Remember that you adopted this as a part of a new requirement for the Florida statutes back in July. We're only giving you a slide on this a couple times so that you're just used to seeing that, knowing that you would want to include that as your part of your decision making. Doesn't have to be in every presentation, won't have to, it'll always be in your staff report, but just be aware that that's part of your comprehensive plan. We just wanted to show you a few more times just so that you get used to thinking of that, because there are 4 specific private property rights that are part of our comprehensive plan now, and essentially those are the items that are listed there that you approved back in July. And so the actual development agreement is consistent with those rights. The Avalon Woods Phase 1B has specific conditions that are listed in your packet as part of Section 5, and really they address the extension of potable water, sewer, electric, that the developer is responsible for that, and that the city would provide for any oversizing. And then the additional condition that's added that's different than the normal standard ones that you have in that agreement is just that the HOA documents, when those are recorded, that we'd go ahead and include a statement so that people who, when they're buying property, they'll know that there's a park nearby, in Easton, and that there may be lights and noises that may affect them. The recommendation is for approval of the development agreement, and the applicant is here to answer any questions, and they did not have a presentation for tonight, for this item.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. And just as a reminder, since it's the development agreement, that's why I didn't ask the attorney to read anything into the record. We'll do that when we have an ordinance or a resolution. And so you've got the recommendation, the applicant does not wish to give an application right now? Okay. That will move us to public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak on this agenda item? You have 3 minutes to do so. Seeing none. Mr. McDaniel, did you hear anything you'd like to cross-examine? Okay, wonderful. All right. Members of the decision-making body, do you have any questions for staff? This is, remember, the development agreements are our way, but while we're working on our overlay districts, our way to work with each developer to make sure that we're getting a better product beyond what our LDRs require. Any questions? Commissioner Clark.
Mr. Mayor, this is a Simon. I've mentioned this before in the past, that although these are approved and I understand what we've done, this is a big project for M3, and they've always been great partners. And I do know that after these phases here, I have consistently said, I personally, and we talked to Mr. Daniels when he was here before, I know the amount of housing we need, it's money for the lots, but for the record, I basically would love to see some of these with bigger lots and housing that goes from, if you call it affordable housing, every house is $300,000 nowadays. I don't understand how that's affordable housing, but
Inflation.
As we go forward, I would love to see lots bigger in subdivisions that we introduce into our area instead of the smallest lots we can get. That's just, but I know M3 does a great job in their development, but for the future, that's what I'd like to say for the record.
And just before, so we don't get off on a rabbit hole,
No.
had nothing to do with the development agreement in front of us right now.
Right.
So just want to make sure, development agreement in front of us right now, in quasi judicial, has nothing to do with lot size or any of that
Right.
kind of stuff. Don't want to cause any confusion.
No, but I'm just stating.
Right.
We know we've already been here, so.
Okay. Any other members of the decision-making body want to ask any questions? Okay. Then final arguments. Staff, would you like to make some final arguments? Mr. McDaniel, would you like to make a final argument? No? Okay. Mr. Attorney, would you please advise the decision-making body's applicable law and factual findings that must be met?
Substantial and competent evidence, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll enter into deliberations. If there are any deliberations, now's the time to deliberate. If anybody's got any questions. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve, deny, approve of conditions.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve, Commissioner Martin. A second from Commissioner Maison. Okay, do I have any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Commissioner Martin.
It's nice to see another M of the M3. David's tired of doing your heavy lifting.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Any comments, questions from the public on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That's going to move us to item number 7. This one is another development agreement, so we won't read everything in. We're still all sworn. We're still ex parte. That was someone leaving, not coming in. Wonderful. Miss Wendy, take it away.
Again, for the record, the copy of the staff report, the recommendation, the draft ordinance is entered into the record. This is, again, a development agreement. It goes along with the development that you have already approved, but this is for a phase-specific development that the agreement itself will provide for the infrastructure improvements and the timing of those improvements. The Florida Development Agreement Act provides for those, as we went over. The recommendation is for approval, and you have had your first hearing on November 8th for this item. This is for Phase 3. This is an approximate location on their property on the south side of Newberry Sports Complex, and this is about 43 acres. And again, it's a residential phase, Phase 3, and it's for implementing the ordinance that's approved in the development agreement for the overall development, and it will be phase-specific for Phase 3 regarding the infrastructure and how those are provided for. Again, The recommended development agreement is consistent with the property rights element that's been adopted as part of our comprehensive plan. You have those on your slide and in your packet. Avalon Woods for Phase 3 has very specific conditions, ones that deal with, again, that water, sewer, electric are provided through the developer, and the city agrees to pay for any oversized facilities. The developer would extend any stub-outs for the water, wastewater, and electric from the development to Easton Newberry Sports Complex on that south side of that complex. And the city agrees to reimburse the developer for the associated construction expense. The developer agrees to provide Northwest 16th Avenue, because they're going to improve Northwest 16th Avenue, and they will go ahead and do a temporary roadway so that everybody will still have access while they're going through those improvements when you're going into the Easton Newberry Sports Complex. The actual improvements, there will be some on-street parking and grass parking. There's also the provision that the city will provide the developer $15,000 for construction of sidewalk segment that's over on the north side of 16th Avenue. And the developer would agree to provide for the upgrade of 3-phase electrical conductor to the development. The city agrees to reimburse, the developer is going to provide that, and the city will reimburse that money for a single phase. The developer will also pay the city then back for that once Phase 5 has been approved in 36 months, or 36 months from this agreement's approval would happen. So in other words, it's like a loan of some, get this done for the electrical conductors, and then there'll be a city will be reimbursed later. So the HOA documents, again, would include that provision for this phase specific to say that you're near a park and there may be noise and light issues that may affect your lot. The recommendation of staff is for approval of the development agreement, and the applicant is here, and they do have a presentation that they would like to make to address some of the questions and discussion that we had last time on Phase 3.
Come on down, sir.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Chris Potts. I'm the Director of Engineering for JB Pro. It's good to be back in front of you guys again. So last time we were up presenting this item, I know there was quite a few questions from the commission about Phase 3, as well as just the development itself and what this developer's agreement between the city and the developer consists of. So again, we're just here to request approval of the developer's agreement. I know some of the questions that came up last time was about the approved concept plan when we went through the modification to the mixed-use development. So I just wanted to present it back up here in front of the commission, just so we can walk through it if there is any questions afterwards. And here is a side-by-side comparison of eventually the construction plans for Phase 3 will come before you for approval. But ahead of time, I wanted to outline, which is on the, I guess, the right side of the screen under the approved master plan, that red line that you see is the development boundary for Phase 3. So yes, there is slight adjustments to the overall concept plan, but that is just expected due to final engineering and making sure that the actual engineering design meets all the LDRs of the city. But again, we are limiting ourselves to what we have in the approved concept plan as far as the boundary for the commercial, where the residential starts, and those sort of things. So just wanted to make sure. I know there was quite a few questions that came out last time about what was the approved master plan, where does Phase 3 fall. I apologize for last time we didn't have this in front of you guys when the questions came up. But hopefully this provides some sort of explanation and visual of where we are in the master plan itself. As far as the developer's agreement, as Wendy mentioned, the developer is going to improve Northwest 16th Avenue with a roundabout into the entrance to Easton. So if you're looking at the roadway layout, the entrance into Easton is to the right of the screen. To the left of the screen is State Road 45. The Avalon Woods development is to the north or top of the screen and to the bottom of the screen, with the roundabout being the focal entry point into both Avalon Woods and the sports complex itself. We're going to be providing some overflow parking towards State Road 45, which our understanding, when the Easton Park is at capacity, there's people parking there anyway. So we wanted to create some delineation for the overflow parking to provide for it. Also, at the entrance into State Road 45, the entrance is going to have some monument signing flanking both sides. One identifying the development, as well as identifying the Easton Sports Complex as well. So it'll be kind of a grand entrance, both for the development as well as the sports complex. So that's one of the main key focuses in the developers agreement. And again, we're just here to request the commission's approval for the developers agreement, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. And staff, Wendy, you gave the recommendation?
Yeah.
Back up. All right, anyone from the public wish to comment on this agenda item? You have 3 minutes to do so. Seeing none. Did you hear anything you want to cross-examine, Chris? No? Wendy, did you hear anything you want to cross-examine? Okay. Members of the decision-making body, do you have any questions of either staff or the applicant? Commissioner Clark?
Mr. Mayor, maybe you can answer it. On when our housing goes down to our commercial side, to where is M3 going to develop that as the commercial side, as the buildings, or are you going to sell that as space for someone else to build?
Right now, they're hoping to find somebody to come in, but right now, there's no definitive answer to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the dais? Seeing none. Would you like to make a final argument, Chris? Wendy? Okay. And deliberations. We have any deliberations from the board? If there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion to approve. I have a motion from Commissioner Clark to approve.
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments, questions, motion for the dais? Any public comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That's going to move us to item 8, which is an ordinance. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Scott, will you read ordinance 2021-50/CPA 21-15 into the record? Thank you, Mr. McDaniel. Thank you, Chris.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending Ordinance Number 4-91 as amended, relating to the amendment of the future land use plan map of the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan of 50 or fewer acres of land under the small-scale development amendment procedures established under the provisions of Section 163.3187 of the Florida statutes as amended, providing for a change in future land use classification from agricultural, less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres, to commercial on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. Tax parcel numbers 01923-005-000 and 01923-005-001, consisting of approximately 18.48 total acres, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2021-50 as read by title only, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Wendy, give us the staff overview. If the applicant doesn't have a presentation, you can move right into the recommendation.
This is an application by the Mr. and Mrs. Hoffman to amend the comprehensive plan to change to a future land use designation of commercial. And we go through this process each time. This property has to have the land use and the zoning to match the type of development they would like to do. And in this case, we're at the second hearing of your process to designate this property commercial under your future land use map as part of your comprehensive plan. And this shows you the location of the property on the south side of Newberry Road. This gives you a better look in, this is changing the future land use from agriculture to commercial. It's about 18.48 acres, and you see where it is on the south side. The recommendation of your Planning and Zoning Board was for approval, and the City Commission held the first hearing on October 25th, excuse me. And at this time, you are able to hold your second public hearing and enact the ordinance if you so choose.
Thank you, Ms. Wendy. Does the applicant like to make a presentation?
Just a quick comment. It is not a residential zoning request. Thank you.
It's probably the most pertinent comment, yes. All right. Thank you, sir. Okay, that will take us to public comment. Any member of the public wish to speak to this agenda item? Seeing none. Did you hear anything you would like to cross-examine? Seeing none. All right. Anybody like to make a final argument? Seeing none. Deliberations. Any deliberations? If there are no deliberations, I entertain a motion to approve. I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Mazon, a second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Any comments or questions from the public? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That moves us on to number 9. Scott, would you please read ordinance 2021-51/LDR21-23 into the record for us?
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida relating to the amendment of the official zoning atlas for the rezoning of approximately 18.48 total acres, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, provided for rezoning from agricultural A zoning district to commercial intensive CI zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, tax parcel numbers 01923-005-000 and 01923-005-001, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2021-51 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Wendy, go ahead and give us the staff overview, presentation, recommendation.
Okay, this is the rezoning part of your process. Once you've changed your comprehensive plan to commercial, what you've done in this last action that you took. This is next, the zoning part. The location of the property is, again, same place, south side of Newberry Road, and it's the 18.48 acres. You see here that the green area, that there's agriculture and there's commercial in the area. The recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board was for approval, and your first reading was on October 25th, at which you approved on first reading, and the recommended action is for approval on second reading, so that you may enact that ordinance contingent upon your plan amendment that you just approved. It's a request for commercial intensive zoning. It's compatible with the existing commercial uses in the area. It's consistent with your comprehensive plan. There is a separate development agreement, as you know, that you approved on October 25th, and that agreement will help to govern this property as well. And this enables, by having that development agreement, enables you to go ahead and move ahead on your land use and zoning changes while you're going through this process of finishing up the community visioning and having the requirements and the regulations changed. It does address requirements for connection to water and sewer and the timing of those connections. The property rights element, remember again, your decision-making always includes consideration of private property rights. In this case, this is consistent with the rights. The recommended action is for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Wendy. The applicant like to, okay. You said it all the first time. Anybody from the public like to comment on this agenda item? Seeing none. No cross-examinations, no final arguments. Members of the decision-making body, do you have any questions? Okay, thank you. I have a motion to approve. Second from Commissioner Mazon. The motion is made by Commissioner Farnsworth. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Any public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That's going to take us to item 10, another second reading. Scott, would you read in ordinance 2021-52/CPA 21-16?
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended, relating to an amendment of the future land use plan map of the City of Newberry comprehensive plan of 50 or fewer acres of land Under the small-scale development amendment procedures established under the small-scale amendment provisions of Section 163.3187 of the Florida statutes as amended, providing for a change in land use classification from Alachua County rural agriculture less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres to the City of Newberry agriculture less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. Parcel numbers 01834-003-000 and 01834-006-000, consisting of approximately 40.3 acres, contiguous acres of land, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing effective date. Appropriate motion is pass ordinance number 2021-52 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
All right. Wendy, go ahead and give us an overview. There's no applicant present. Slide right into the recommendation.
Okay. We're trying to streamline your presentations a bit, so we are presenting, I've got 2 of these future land use amendments that are your second readings on these. So I'm going to go into the first one for which the title has just been read, and then you'll be able to take action, and then we'll go right into the second one after the title's been read. So these are small-scale plan amendments, which means that they're 50 acres or fewer. They're site-specific for a development, and that's what we're dealing with here for an actual piece of property that you're changing the land use on. The location, you can see, is a quarter mile south of Northwest 46th Avenue, about a mile east of Northwest 298th Street, County Line Road. It's about 40.3 acres. It's going from county to city agriculture. It's consistent with our comprehensive plan, and your Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval, and you held your first public hearing. This is your second public hearing for the second reading, and the recommendation is to approve the ordinance 2021-52 for CPA 2116.
Thank you, Wendy. So we don't have an applicant present.
Right.
Members of the public, do you have anyone here who'd like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing none, we're going to go all the way down to members of the decision-making body. Any questions? Seeing none, we will go to deliberations. Are there any deliberations? There are no deliberations. I take motion to approve. So moved. Have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth. Second. Second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments, questions, motion before the dais? Any comments, questions from the public on motion on the floor? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Nazon out of the room. That will move us to item 11. If you just give us a presentation on that one, is that correct?
I'm just going to show you the location,
Okay.
and if you want to read the title in now, or I can do it. And then.
Scott, go ahead and read that.
Glad to do so.
Sorry, I'll turn my mic on. Go ahead.
This is ordinance number 2021-54, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended, relating to the amendment of the future land use plan map of the City of Newberry, comprehensive plan of 50 or fewer acres of land under the small-scale development amendment procedures established in the small-scale amendment provisions of Section 163.3187 of the Florida statutes as amended, providing for a change in land use classification from Alachua County rural agricultural less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres to City of Newberry agricultural less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. Parcel numbers 04265-007-000, consisting of approximately 7.66 contiguous acres of land, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is passed ordinance number 2021-54, CPA 21-17, as read by title only.
All right, Wendy, take it away.
So this is, again, another piece of property that was recently annexed into the city, and this is the comprehensive plan change part of the process. You see the location, 7.66 acres. It's over on the on the north side of West Newberry Road. It's just west of Pet Paradise. It is consistent with the comprehensive plan. You're changing it from county to city agriculture for your future land use map, which is part of your comprehensive plan. And the Planning and Zoning Board did recommend approval. You held your first public hearing and you approved it on first reading. This is your second reading, at which you may approve the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak to this agenda item? Seeing none, we're going to move all the way down to members of the decision-making body. Do you have any questions? If not, we'll enter deliberations. No questions, any deliberations? If there's no deliberations, I'll have a motion to approve. I have a motion from Commissioner Clark, a second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments, questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Any public comments on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to item 12. Scott, would you please read on second read ordinance 2021-53/LDR 21-24 into the record?
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, relating to the amendment of the official zoning atlas for the rezoning of 40.3 acres more or less pursuant to an application by the City of Newberry, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing for rezoning from Letcher County Agricultural A zoning district to City of Newberry Agricultural A zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, which have been annexed thereto, tax parcel numbers 01834-003-000 and 01834-006-000, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is passed. Ordinance number 2021-53 is read by title only.
Thank you, sir. Wendy, take it away.
So again, this is the same property you just heard. We talked about two different locations. This is that first location, the 40.3 acres. This is the rezoning part. So once you change your comprehensive plan to agriculture, then you are able to change your zoning to the agriculture district or changing from county to city. So once you have that zoning that implements your comprehensive plan and your future land use map, this is the location of the property, the 40.3 acres up in the northwest part of the city. And the ordinance is 2021-53, so it's for the rezoning aspect. We described the location. The zoning board, of course, recommended approval. You held your first hearing. This is your second hearing at which you may enact the ordinance. The recommendation of staff is for approval.
Thank you, Miss Wendy. Applicant's not here, right? So that'll move us to public comment. Anybody in members of the public wish to speak to this agenda item? Seeing none, member decision making body, do you have any questions? Seeing none, we'll enter deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll have a motion to approve. I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments, questions on the motion floor of the dais? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And Wendy, you're off the hook, I think, right? Brian up, or you got one more? One more for you, all right. Scott, will you read ordinance 2021-57/CPA 21-23 into the record, please?
Mr. Mayor, this is item 13, and I will certainly do so. This is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, relating to the amendment of the official zoning atlas for the rezoning of 7.66 acres more or less pursuant to an application by the City of Newberry, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing for rezoning from Letcher County Agricultural A zoning district to City of Newberry Agricultural A zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, which have been annexed thereto, tax parcel number 04265-007-000, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2021-55 as read by title only.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. So this is that second parcel that we talked about, and so it's 7.66 acres on the north side of Newberry Road. It's just to the east of 202nd Street for about a third of a mile. So it's going from county to city agriculture. It's consistent with our comprehensive plan, land development regulations to make that change. You've heard those presentations before. The Planning and Zoning Board did recommend approval, and you held your first hearing on October 25th, at which you approved on first reading, and then tonight you may enact the ordinance on second reading, and that is the recommendation of staff.
Thank you, Ms. Wendy. Any public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll take us to member decision-making body. Do you have any questions for staff? They'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll have a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, a second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments, questions, motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Now we are on to item 14, is that right? Item 14, ordinance 2021-57/CPA 21-23. Scott, will you read that into the record, please?
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended relating to the amendment of the future land use plan map of the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan under the expedited amendment procedures established in sections 163.3184, subparagraph 2 and 3 of the Florida statutes, and in conformance with sections 163.3161 through 163.3215 of the Florida statutes, providing for a change in future land use classification from Alachua County rural agriculture, less than or equal to 1 dwelling per 5 acres, to the City of Newberry's agriculture, less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres, on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, which have been annexed thereto, tax parcel number 01756-000-000, consisting of approximately 254.1 acres, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2021-57 as read by title only.
Thank you, Scott. All right, Brian, you're up. Go ahead and give us the staff overview. There's no applicant. Go slide into the presentation and the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All of the rest of the items are annexations, and so they should move fairly smoothly. I don't know about quickly. Large-scale annexation here. This is the first step, is changing the future land use map from county to city. It's roughly 254 acres on the north end of Newberry. Again, it's ordinance 2021-57. It was heard on November 1st by the Planning and Zoning Board, who voted unanimously to recommend approval to the City Commission. This is your first reading and opportunity to vote on ordinance 2021-57. Staff's recommendation is to approve on first reading.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Members of the public, do you have any comments on this agenda item? Seeing none, it's going to take us down to members of the decision-making body. Do you have any questions for staff? Commissioner Farnsworth. Do you have the date?
Mr. Mayor, I do not have the date of the annexation. It was fairly recently, though, about a month ago. Yeah.
From there to here. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? We're going to move. Yeah. Any other questions from the dais? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to approve. So moved. I have a motion from Commissioner Clark, a second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments or questions on the motion from the dais? Any comments or questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Scott got it back just in time. Could you please read on first reading ordinance 2021-61/CPA 21-24 into the record for us?
Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended relating to the amendment of the future land use plan map of the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan under the expedited amendment procedures established in sections 163.3184, 2 and 3 of the Florida statutes, and in conformance with sections 163.3161 through 163.3215 of the Florida statutes, providing for a change in the future land use classification from Alachua County rural agricultural, less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres, to the City of Newberry's agricultural, less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, which have been annexed thereto. Tax parcel numbers 04262-000-000, tax parcel number 04263-001-000, 04263-000-000, tax parcel number 04272-000-000, and 04273-000-000, consisting of approximately 256.253 acres, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is pass ordinance number 2021-61 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the 5 parcels that comprise the remainder of the Dudley Farm State Park. The frontage on State Road 26 was already in the city of Newberry. This brings the rest of it in. It was already annexed. Now this is the land use on going from county to city. Once again, there's a little bit of a close-up.
We are on 15.
On November 1st, Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously to recommend to the City Commission approval of Ordinance 2021-61. Staff's recommended action is to approve Ordinance 2021-61 on first reading.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any members of the public here to speak to this agenda item? Seeing none, it's going to move us all the way down to member decision-making body. Do you have any questions? Seeing none, we'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions? Commissioner Farnsworth made the motion. Commissioner Martin made the second. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That's going to move us to item number 16. Scott, hardest working man here tonight. Would you please read on first reading the ordinance 2021-59/CPA 21-22?
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended, relating to the amendment of the future land use plan map of the City of Newberry comprehensive plan of 50 or fewer acres of land under the small-scale development amendment procedures established under the small-scale amendment provisions of Section 163.3187 of the Florida statutes as amended, providing for a change in land use classification from Alachua County rural agricultural less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres to the City of Newberry agricultural less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. Parcel numbers 01834-004-000 and 01834-005-000, consisting of approximately 40 contiguous acres of land, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2021-59 as read by title only.
Thank you, Scott.
Sir.
Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The following 4 ordinances encompass small-scale amendments, each one meaning less than 50 acres each. It's first step in the change from future land use of county to city. And again, these the first 2 are total 40 acres. They're up on far up on Holder Grade, right at the county line. Again, each parcel 20 acres, encompassing 40. And November 1st, Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously 4-0 to recommend approval of the City Commission of Ordinance 2021-59. And staff's recommendation is to approve Ordinance 2021-59 on first reading.
Thank you, Brian. Do we have any members of the public here to speak to this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll take us all the way down to members' decision-making body. Do you have any questions? Seeing none, we'll enter into deliberations. If there are none, we'll have a motion to approve.
I think it's Tony's turn.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Commissioner Maison
Second.
and a second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments or questions on the floor of the dais? Public comments? Seeing here and none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Scott, will you please read ordinance 2021-63/CPA 2120 into the record for us?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended, relating to the amendment of the future land use plan map of the City of Newberry comprehensive plan of 50 or fewer acres of land under the small-scale development amendment procedures established under the small-scale amendment provisions of Section 163.3187 of the Florida statutes as amended, providing for a change in land use classification from Alachua County rural agriculture less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres to the City of Newberry agriculture less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. Parcel numbers 04273-001-000, consisting of approximately 40 acres of contiguous land, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is pass ordinance number 2021-63 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir. Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a single parcel, 40-acre parcel. It's actually due north of Dudley Farms, which you just approved on first reading for the land use change for them. It's a small scale, under 50 acres. And a little more information there. It's we're just going from county agriculture to city agriculture. Again, on November 1st, the Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously to recommend the City Commission approval of Ordinance 2021-63. Staff's recommended action is also approval of Ordinance 2021-63 on first reading.
Thank you, Brian. Do we have any members of the public here to speak to this agenda item? Seeing none, it's going to take us down to member decision-making body. Do you have any questions? Seeing none, we'll enter into deliberations. If there are none, we'll have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion from Commissioner Clark, a second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments from the dais? Any comments from the public? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That's going to move us to agenda item 18, ordinance 2021-67/CPA 21-19. Scott, will you read that into the record for us, please?
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 is amended relating to the amendment of the future land use plan map of the City of Newberry comprehensive plan of 50 or fewer acres of land under the small scale development amendment procedures established under the small-scale amendment provisions of Section 163.3187 of the Florida statutes as amended, providing for a change in land use classification from Alachua County rural agriculture less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres to the City of Newberry agriculture less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, tax parcel number 02696-010-007, consisting of approximately 5.06 acres, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2021-67 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir. Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a 5-acre parcel down on the southern end of the City of Newberry, across the street from the Watermelon Pond Wildlife Management Area. Again, going from Alachua County Agriculture to City of Newberry Agriculture future land use. Again, on November 1st, Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously to recommend to the City Commission approval of Ordinance 2021-67. And staff's recommended action is approval of Ordinance 2021-67 on first reading.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any members of the public here to speak to this agenda item? Seeing none, I'll move us down to member decision-making body. You got any questions? Seeing none, we'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll have a motion to approve.
A motion to approve.
I have a motion from Commissioner Maison.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Clark. Any comments, questions, motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Move us to agenda item 19, ordinance 2021-69/CPA 21-21. Scott, will you please read that into record?
Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended, relating to an amendment of the future land use plan map of the City of Newberry comprehensive plan of 50 or fewer acres of land under the small-scale development amendment procedures established under the provisions of Section 163.3187 of the Florida statutes as amended, providing for a change in future land use classification from agriculture less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres to commercial on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. Tax parcel numbers 01925-009-000 and 01925-009-001, consisting of approximately 12.26 acres total land, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2021-69 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is 2 parcels, a total of 12.26 acres. It's in the Serpentine Enclave area south of Comoco Ranch, so we're excited. We're slowly filling in that great big 54 parcel enclave slowly, a couple parcels at a time. Give you a little bit, just a different perspective there where these two are. And again, Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously 4-0 to recommend to the City Commission approval of Ordinance 2021-69. Staff's recommended action is also for the Commission to approve Ordinance 2021-69 on first reading.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any members of the public here to speak to this agenda item? Seeing none, that's going to take us down to members of the decision-making body. Got any questions? Seeing none, we'll enter deliberations. If there are no deliberations, motion to approve. Have a motion from Commissioner Martin.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Bazan. Any comments, questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions? Hearing none. All those in favor? Motion passes
Aye.
unanimously. There it is. Wait for that fourth. Moving on to item 20. We've only got a page and a little bit to go. A page and a little bit to go. Scott, would you please read on first reading ordinance 2021-58/LDR 21-32?
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida relating to the amendment of the official zoning atlas for the rezoning of 254.18 acres, more or less, pursuant to the application by the City of Newberry, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing for rezoning from Alachua County Agricultural A zoning district to the City of Newberry Agricultural A zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, which have been annexed thereto. Tax parcel number 01756-000-000, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motions pass ordinance number 2021-58 as read by title only.
Thank you, Scott. Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All of the remaining items on the agenda here are the rezoning actions on the land that you have just recently approved on first reading, the comprehensive plan amendment, future land use amendments from county to city. This is going to rezone from Alachua County Agricultural Zoning District to the City of Newberry Agricultural Zoning District. Again, it's a second step in the process. These first two are the large-scale amendments, and so you can approve on first reading tonight, and then they go to DEO, and so we'll wait on the rezoning application until it comes back from DEO, and then we go to the second readings. This is the 254 acres known as Farm Gelt up on the north end of the City of Newberry. Another picture there. And so on November 1st, Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously to approve staff's recommend the City Commission approval of ordinance 2021-58, contingent upon approval of CPA 21-23. Therefore, staff's recommended action is approval of 2021-58 on first reading.
Okay. Public comment on this agenda item? Hearing none, we'll enter into deliberations, questions, all the way to a motion from Commissioner Martin. And a second from Commissioner Bazan. Comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously and moves on to item 21. First reading of ordinance 2021-62/LDR 21-33. Scott, would you please read that into the record?
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida relating to the amendment of the official zoning atlas for the rezoning of 256.253 acres, more or less, pursuant to an application by the City of Newberry, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing for rezoning from Alachua County Agricultural A zoning district to the City of Newberry Agricultural A zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, which have been annexed thereto. Tax parcel numbers 04262-000-000, tax parcel number 04263-001-000, 04263-000-000, 04272-000-000, and last tax parcel number is 04273-000-000, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is pass ordinance number 2021-62 is read by title only.
Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the rezoning for the 5 parcels of Dudley Farm, as you previously saw as the future land use change. The Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously to recommend the City Commission approval of ordinance 2021-62, contingent upon the City Commission's approval of CPA 21-24. Therefore, staff's recommended action is also approval of ordinance 2021-62 on first reading, contingent upon approval of CPA 21-24.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any public comments on the agenda on the floor? Seeing none, that'll take us to questions. No questions, deliberations?
One thing, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad Brian fixed that, because on here it says 1 parcel, and then we got about 6 tax numbers. so thank you for clarifying. There was five, that's what it is.
All right, good clarification. There are no more deliberations. Have a motion from Commissioner Clark, second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments on the motion from the dais? Public comments on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Item 22, first reading of ordinance 2021-60/LDR 2131. Scott, please.
Mr. Mayor, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, relating to the amendment of the official zoning atlas for the rezoning of 40.00 acres, more or less, pursuant to an application by the City of Newberry. Amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing for rezoning from Lasher County Agricultural A zoning district to the City of Newberry Agricultural A zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, which have been annexed thereto, tax parcel numbers 01834-004-000 and 01834-005-000, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is pass ordinance number 2021-60 as read by title only.
Thank you, Scott. Brian?
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. These next four items are small-scale amendments, and so we'll not have to wait for state review. Again, these are two 20-acre parcels, total 40 in total, over on the county line on the north end of town at the end of Holder Grade. And again, November 1st, Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously to recommend the City Commission approval of Ordinance 2021-60. Therefore, staff's recommended action is also approve Ordinance 2021-60 on first reading, contingent upon approval of CPA 21-22.
Thank you, sir. Public comment on the agenda item? Hearing none. Deliberations? No deliberations. Motion?
Move to approve ordinance 2021-60, parcel number 01834-004-000 and 01834-005-000.
Well done, sir.
I'd second it, though, just want to make sure Joe, you got the entire motion written down. Okay, all right.
Motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments or questions on the from the dais, from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to item 23, first reading of ordinance 2021-64/LDR 21-29. Scott?
An ordinance of the city,
Can we read it for you?
You probably need a break.
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, relating to the amendment of the official zoning atlas for the rezoning of 40.76 acres, more or less, pursuant to an application by the City of Newberry, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing for rezoning from Lasher County Agricultural A zoning district to the City of Newberry Agricultural A zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, which have been annexed thereto. Tax parcel number 04273-001-000, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is pass ordinance number 2021-64 as read by title only, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance 2021-64 is another single 40-acre parcel north of Dudley Farm. It's the rezoning for the property you've already changed the future land use on in first reading. And so the Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously to recommend City Commission approval of Ordinance 2021-64, contingent upon approval of CPA 21-20. Therefore, staff's recommended action is also approval of Ordinance 2021-64 on first reading, contingent upon approval of CPA 21-20.
Thank you, sir. Any public questions on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll go to questions. If there are no questions, we'll have deliberations. If there are no deliberations, we'll have a motion. Motion from Commissioner Clark. Second from Commissioner Maison. Any questions on the motion from the dais? Any public questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Item 24 is first reading of ordinance 2021-68/LDR 2128. Scott?
Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, relating to the amendment of the official zoning atlas for the rezoning of 5.06 acres, more or less, pursuant to an application by the City of Newberry, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing for rezoning from Alachua County Agricultural A zoning district to the City of Newberry Agricultural A zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, which have been annexed thereto. Tax parcel numbers 02696-010-007, providing for severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2021-68 as read by title only.
Thank you, Scott. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a 5-acre parcel down across from Watermelon Pond Wildlife Management Area. Changing from Alachua County Agriculture to City of Newberry Agricultural Zoning District. But Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously to recommend to the City Commission approval of Ordinance 2021-68 contingent upon approval of CPA 21-19. Therefore, staff's recommended action is also approval of Ordinance 2021-68 contingent upon approval of CPA 21-19.
Thank you, Brian. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll enter into questions. If there are no questions, we'll have deliberations. No deliberations, we'll have a motion. Motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Maison. Any questions on the motion from the dais? Any questions from the public? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Uno mas. Brian, or Scott, will you please read on first reading ordinance 2021-70/LDR 21-30?
Mr. Mayor, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida relating to the amendment of the official zoning atlas for the rezoning of 12.26 acres more or less pursuant to an application by the City of Newberry, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry and land development regulations, providing for rezoning from Alachua County Agricultural A zoning district to the City of Newberry Agricultural A zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, which have been annexed thereto. Tax parcel numbers 01925-009-000, tax parcel number 01925-009-001, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2021-70 as read by title only.
Thank you, Scott. Brian, one more time.
I think we found the formula, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. It's ordinance 2021-70, which is 2 parcels totaling a little over 12 acres in the enclave area south of Comoko Ranch. Again, the Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously to recommend the City Commission approval of ordinance 2021-70, contingent upon approval of CPA 21-21, and therefore staff's recommended action is approval of ordinance 2021-70, contingent upon approval of CPA 21-21.
Thank you, Brian. Does the public have any questions on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move to questions. If there are no questions, we'll have deliberations. If there are no deliberations, we'll have a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Clark. Any questions from the dais on the motion? Any questions from the public on the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Woo! All right, and praise the Lord, there are no agenda items. All right, that takes us to comments. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will try to be brief out of respect for the number of agenda items that you've considered. Mr. Mayor, as you know, the city offices will be closed this Thursday and Friday in recognition of Thanksgiving holiday. Want to wish the community and the commission a very happy Thanksgiving holiday. Mr. Mayor, next Tuesday, November the 30th, just a reminder that the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Alachua County Extension Offices and Conference Center will be held. The Commission's invited to lunch at 11:30, and then the general public and the Commission are invited to ribbon cutting at 1 p.m. on site. Should be brief. They've asked the mayor to speak, so it may not be brief. No. We're a long ways before evaluations again. I figured I could get away with that. Mr. Mayor, following the ribbon cutting on Thursday, December 2nd at 3 p.m., we'll be holding the first use of the conference center. Commissioner of Agriculture, Nikki Freed, has been invited. I think she's coming at the invitation of the Gainesville Chamber. They didn't have a good place for her to speak, and I said, you know what, we got a brand new conference center in Newberry, let's set her up here. So we're going to be hosting her. I believe that starts at 3 p.m. It's on all of your calendar. The public is invited. It's not a closed door event. So please invite as many people as you can to come out and check out our new digs and listen to what Commissioner Freed has to say. So that's Thursday, and then on Friday, Mr. Mayor, we'll have our tree lighting ceremony here at City Hall and in general in the downtown area because it spills all the way over into Berry Park. Festivities start at 7 or 6:30? 6:30. So we're going to adjust the calendar invite that you all have, which says 7. We'll get it to 6:30. So don't be late. You don't want to miss that. Friday the 4th. It's going to be Friday the 4th, not Black Friday, the following week after that. And then finally, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to...
Friday the 3rd.
Yeah, Friday the 3rd, that is correct.
Friday the 3rd.
My mistake. I was getting ahead of myself. This next item was something I really need to focus on. I wanted to communicate to the commission so that you're aware. I don't want there to be any surprises. As you know, over the weekend, there was a vacancy in the University of Florida's football program, and athletic director Scott Strickland contacted me and asked if I was available to sit down and meet. I have no idea where that would lead with, Mr. Mayor, but there are probably a few positions that would draw me away from what I love doing here at the City of Newberry. That might be one of them. I'll keep you posted as to how those conversations go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner
That
Clark's
concludes.
appointment's at 11:30. What time is yours? Yeah.
Well, then, Mr. Mayor, he's before me. I'm certain that the job search will be over after his interview, so I'll just go ahead and tell the commission now, you got me for a little while longer. There you go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Attorney?
Both of you may have 8 million reasons why to take that job. My condolences to the Coleman family, to Ricky and his family. So certainly anything we can do, we're glad to do. Proud of Kirsten, Andrea. Andrea comes back officially from maternity leave on December 6th. We can't wait to have her back, and so we can start getting back to full strength in the shop. Dave did a great job. Dave Wagner, former county attorney, and on our staff, and then Newberry's own Clay Martin did a great job of presenting from all accounts. I couldn't make it, so but everybody said that they did a good job with what they needed to do. You may know that Tiana has taken a job in Jacksonville, left us for greener pastures, maybe not. I did want to acknowledge that. We have hired on Molly McGowan, and she's coordinating the city work. And so somewhere along the line, I spoke to her this afternoon. I said, Molly, you need to come out and meet the folks in Newberry, one of these meetings, because you all need to know who you're talking with, and she needs to know you as well. So that'll be coming down the pike, but I'm real pleased with Molly. She's catching on and doing really a good job on the administrative side of things. So that's a new face that you'll be meeting here in the very near future. Other than that, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Madam Clerk?
Just wishing everyone a safe and happy Thanksgiving. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate that. Commissioner Clark?
Caveat, safe travels and prayers for Ricky and his family. And I would like to say thank the city staff and employees that all they did for the putting the flag up. It was an honor to walk out when it was windy. The big flag was flying, and it was very, I heard a lot of comments on it, but it was just very good to see the flag flying. Thanks to the Lion Club and getting the rodeo here. And we did have a local girl, Emily Jackson, who actually placed 3rd overall in that event and barrel racing. So thank you there, and that's all I got. And happy Thanksgiving to all you guys and gals, and safe travels.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir.
You didn't win the shot, did you?
Commissioner Farnsworth? No, I didn't win either.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I was told I was going to win, but.
Judy, does the city attorney have to go through the ethics training?
He needs it the most.
So the state legislature thinks that
Your microphone's not on, we can't hear you.
So the state legislature thinks elected officials are more dishonest or more unethical than the attorneys are. Huh?
I don't think state elected officials have to do that, do they? Yeah, they don't make themselves do it. It's just
They
us.
don't go to prison.
Yeah.
Just curious.
City Attorneys Association has a much better lobby than the elected officials.
Yeah.
They're busy working.
Commissioner Barton?
I ditto to everything that was said earlier, and it comes to my mind that the Church of Christ is hosting their annual Thanksgiving dinner. I believe it's 11 o'clock on Thursday. Check with Pastor Jess if you are interested or have another question. The Destiny Community Church Buy a Tree, Change a Life event starts tonight, and it goes until we sell out. There's 300 trees over there that we've got to get rid of. So come pay way too much for a tree, and half the money stays here locally for kids. It does not come to Destiny Church. The other half goes to mission fields worldwide. I appreciate everything that happened this weekend. It was a great weekend in our area. I got to almost none of the events for personal reasons I had going on at my house. I did get to the rodeo, and that was a lot. That was really, really a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot.
Thanks, sir. Commissioner Maison?
Yep. Deepest sympathies with the family of Coleman. The rodeo was nice. I will be paying for a tree. I love the smell of a Christmas tree. I love Christmas. Fun fact. That's right. What do you call that hat that the chefs wear? Toque? Is that what it's called? I have no idea. You don't know?
Oh, the chef's hat.
Chef's hat.
Chef's hat, but they call it what, a toque, right? You know how many folds it has?
13.
100. You know why? 100 ways to make an egg.
I have learned something here tonight. That's a fact that I will never, ever forget.
That's not what we called a toque when I was in high school. That was something different.
Thank you, sir. I want to echo everything. Obviously, condolences to the Coleman family and happy Thanksgiving. Safe travels. I also want to say thank you to everybody and every organization this weekend that worked to put something on. I mean, if you couldn't find something to do this weekend, then you just weren't trying. But to the Main Street organization putting on the Fall Festival, I was there. I agree there was easily 2,500 people there. It was steady flow all day long. The Lions Club called on Thursday at 4:30 and asked about that flag. And I said, well, we're closed on Fridays. But I called Mike, and we originally said, it's just too short notice. They can borrow the flag if they got the equipment. But our guys heard about what we were trying to do, and they said, no, we can make it happen. And it wasn't 5 minutes later, the manager was calling me back saying, nope, they want to go out there and try. So with less than 24 hours notice, we had 2 shined up city vehicles and an enormous flag. And I stood there Friday night taking tickets with the Lions Club for a couple hours, and there were very few people who walked under that flag who didn't mention how cool it was. We got lots of great pictures of it. It was fantastic. So, and then of course all the churches, as I said earlier, they came together in the Newberry Ministerial Association and fed about 700 people Thanksgiving in the park. It was a great community event, and I'm sure there was something else that happened over the weekend that I am forgetting. Manager already talked about December 3rd tree lighting. December 4th, don't forget, is Cane Festival at Dudley Farm, and this year we will be unveiling the plaque to recognize Dudley Farm as a National Historic Site. That makes Newberry home to one of only 2 National Historic Sites in Alachua County. So it'd be great if you guys could be there. December 18th is the Christmas Parade and Christmas on the Square at the Town Center. And then, of course, our tree lighting ceremony, our tree lighting contest is up and running right now. You can go to the city's website, click on Mayor's Corner, and the registration form is right there. You can compete as a residential house. You can compete as a business window. you can compete as a business with a yard, and your whole neighborhood can compete. So there's 4 different contests. That committee has worked really hard. So if you, just for fun, go register and let's light up Newberry. And I want to introduce the newest member to the School Board of Alachua County's Oversight Committee, Miss Peggy right here, our one and only. So she is now on the committee that is overseeing the spending of the half-cent sales tax that was passed, and there has been some recent controversy over. So it's great to have somebody in our own hometown looking at those books and reporting back to us what she learned. So, and that does it for my comments. Public hat. December, I just said it. You were on the phone. December 18th is the parade. 6 o'clock?
Thing, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Prayers and heart goes out to the city that just went through that tragic SUV went through the parade. So,
Yeah, we'll talk to ASO.
well, I'm just saying it's
What?
it's hardest important simply.
Mr. Porter. Oh, yeah, Tommy Porter passed. Yeah, our condolences go out to his family as well. Okay, public comments? Seeing none, we are adjourned.